Welcome to today's session on Incoterms and its impact on garment cost and price. This is session 11 and the name of the subject is Export Merchandising and EXIM Documentation. Now broadly what we are going to talk about is Incoterms and the impact on garment cost and price. Now we're going to first talk about Incoterms. Now Incoterms is a short form of International Commercial Terms. Now what are international commercial terms? It is a codification of international rules for the uniform interpretation of common contract clauses in export-import transactions developed and issued by the International Chamber of Commerce, and it defines trade contract responsibilities between buyer and seller. Now what we are saying over here is that because there are more than 200 countries, when they're trading with each other, there has to be a uniform vocabulary which is understood by all and which has a universal meaning. And it has taken a lot of efforts, and the effort has been channelized by International Chamber of Commerce, and over a period of time this codification has been done in such a way that everyone understands the terms in an unambiguous manner, and therefore all these terms which are part of international commercial terms, they define the trade contract responsibilities between buyer and seller. So there are 12 types of international commercial terms, and every term clearly demarcates what is the responsibility of the seller and what is going to be the responsibility of the buyer. Now the Incoterms are trade terms that clarify responsibilities in the shipment of goods internationally, for documents, for licenses, for port fees, carriage, insurance, terminal cost, duties, delivery fees, and all other expenses within a multinational transaction. And each term is represented by a 3-letter acronym. So all the Incoterms have a short form of 3 alphabets, and these 12 types of Incoterms, each of them mean different things, and in each of the cases the responsibility of the buyer and seller changes. Now the ICC has amended and modernized these rules several times throughout the history as per the situation demands, and based on the different kinds of confusion that have occurred in the past. So there has been various revisions in the Incoterms, and the current Incoterm definition, it has been revised and published in 2020 to reflect the current international trade practices, and that is what we are going to discuss. Now, why Incoterms? The purpose of the Incoterms is to eliminate barriers caused by the distance or the language and the local business practices in global business dealings. Now, if India is working with China, or maybe India is working with Germany, the local business practices of India is very different from that of Germany. But then how do India and Germany work together? How do they trade with each other? So they have to come to a common consensus, and they have to have a common language, and they have to have a common understanding, and that is what the Incoterms does. It eliminates barriers which is caused by distances or the language and the local business practices. It diminishes uncertainties and conflicting interpretations of trade terms on a worldwide scale. Clearly, simply put, Incoterms puts the uncertainties to rest, and there are no conflicting interpretations. It has only one clear interpretation. Each Incoterm has a clear interpretation, and everyone understands it clearly. All the buyers and sellers of the world, they understand it unambiguously. Incoterm also reduces the risks, delays, and disruptions which are normally caused by misunderstandings or the disputes and litigations. Now, why would there be misunderstanding or dispute or litigation? Because there is a scope of multiple interpretations. Now, that is not something which is there in Incoterms. The Incoterms defines things in very clear manner, and therefore there is no possibility of multiple interpretations. Further, the purpose of Incoterms is to provide a universal vocabulary accepted by all of the major international financial institutions. So other than the buyer and seller, which is exporter and importer, all the financial institutions also have a clear understanding and understanding of the meaning of the Incoterms, and this is what helps in minimizing the problems at critical points. Critical points are those points where the seller's responsibility ends and the buyer's responsibility begins. That is the handover takeover point. And most of the misunderstanding or misinterpretation or disputes arise at these critical points, and those are the problems, and these problems are minimized because of Incoterms. A major critical point occurs within the exchange at the point when the seller's responsibility ends and the buyer's responsibility for the shipment begins. That's what I explained earlier, and this includes the handover of costs, risks, and documents. So what happens at this handover, this critical point, is that the costs, the risks, and the documents, it shifts from the exporter's hand to the importer's hand. So till the critical point, all the costs are taken care of by the seller, all the risks are undertaken by the seller, and all the documents are arranged for, prepared by the seller. The moment the handover is done, then further costs, further risks, and further documents all are to be taken care of by the buyer. A misunderstanding of responsibility at a critical point, if there is any such misunderstanding, it will result in delay of a shipment, or it may cause custom problems, and it may impact the letter of credit payment. So what happens is that because of misunderstanding, because two parties cannot come to a consensus, there may be a delay in the shipment, or it may cause custom problem because your goods are there, let's say at the customs, and the buyer and the seller, they are having some misunderstanding. The customs officers, they are simply going to state that please come up with a consensus or a conclusion, else we will start penalizing, because the shipment is occupying certain amount of space at the customs office, and the customs office straight away starts penalizing or starts levying demurrage charge. So that is part of the customs problems, and it may impact the payment. Now, if there is a problem in terms of understanding at the customs, that may lead to delays, and because of the delays, it can eventually impact the payment schedule, and the buyer may make the payment at a later date instead of the pre-agreed date. Now, Incoterms spells out which party is responsible for what. Now, what are the responsibilities? The risk of loss, the responsibility of delivery, export and import licenses. Now, export license, the responsibility lies with the exporter, import license with the importer. Customs clearance. Now, customs clearance, in some of the Incoterms agreement, the custom clearance has to be done by the exporter, and the rest of them, in those cases, the custom clearance falls in the purview of responsibility of the buyer. We will see that in detail. And then Incoterms also talks about who's going to be responsible for the contract of carriage, who's going to pay for the transportation charges, and the contract of insurance, who's going to pay for the insurance. Of course, at the end of the day, anything happens to the shipment, the insurance will be claimed by the buyer, not the seller. That's a universal rule. So these are the things which Incoterms spells out which party is responsible for these particular categories. Now, if we see this slide, this is slide number 11, and this shows the various stages that the shipment goes through, and along with that, it also illustrates the various expenses that arise because of various activities as we move up the supply chain, move down the supply chain. Now, first we are going to start from the top left corner where we have the factory. Now the order has been placed by the importer or the buyer, and the order is executed by the exporter or the seller. Now this product is made in the factory, and then first stage is where the seller says that I am going to give you the product X works. X works means I'm going to deliver the shipment in the premises of my factory. You have to collect it from my factory, and whatever happens outside the factory is your responsibility. All the expenses, all the risks, all the documents, you will have to take care of. So in this case, the factory or the seller only has the responsibility of producing the product and providing it just outside their premises. That is called X works. Now X works is the Incoterm. Similarly, we can see FCA, FAS, FOB, CFR, CIF. These are all Incoterms, and this is what we are going to discuss in detail. Now the second stage is where from the factory or the works we look at FCA, which is free carrier. Now free carrier means if the seller agrees to this condition that free carrier, and let's say Mumbai sending the shipment by sea from Mumbai port, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, for example. So the language is that the seller says, I'll give you the shipment $5 FCA X Mumbai port, which means I will deliver the goods onto the ship at Mumbai port, and that will cost you $5 per piece. So the buyer understands that for $5 my shipments will be reaching Mumbai port, and it will be loaded onto the ship, and for that I'll have to pay $5. After the goods have been on board the ship, then rest of the insurance, rest of the expenses and rest of the documents, that will be have to be taken care of by the buyer. That is FCA. The third is FAS. FAS is free alongside ship. Now this is a peculiar term where the seller agrees to the responsibility of making the shipment and sending the shipment to the dock, to the port, and the goods will be sent and unloaded to a place which is beside the ship. That is free alongside ship. Now the goods have been custom cleared, but they have not been stuffed on board. They have not been stuffed on the ship. That is free alongside ship. Once the loading has been done and the export clearance has been done, the goods are on the ship, then it's called FOB. So if a seller quotes a price of $5 US dollar FOB, it means in $5 the seller will produce the shipment, will also get it custom cleared and in their home country, and they will also stuff it on the ship, and for that they will be charging $5. So that is the meaning of FOB, free on board. Now a further step to FOB is, the next stage is CFR. CFR means cost and freight. Now cost and freight means that if the price is being quoted as $5 CFR, it means that against $5 the seller will produce the goods, get it custom cleared, will stuff it on the ship, and then the seller will also pay for the transportation. In this case, from let's say India to Rotterdam. Rotterdam is a major port in Europe. So this means the buyer understands that for $5 my goods will be produced, will be custom cleared, will be stuffed on the ship, and it will reach me to Rotterdam. for $5. So $5 CFR means $5 includes the cost as well as the freight from point A to B. In this case, it is from Mumbai port to Rotterdam. And then a step further in the supply chain is CIF. CIF is cost insurance freight. Now, what the only additional thing which is happening over here is that to the cost and freight, we are also adding the cost of insurance. So, which means that $5 CIF means it is the cost of the product, custom clearance, transportation, everything. It is stuffed on board the ship. It also includes the freight from Mumbai to Rotterdam. It also includes the cost of insurance. So that's why we call it CIF, cost, insurance, freight. Now from cost, insurance, freight, the next stage is DAF, which is delivery at frontier, before the customs border. Now delivery at frontier means the ship will be carrying the cargo. It will be in the international waters and it will reach the destination country's border. It is still in the sea. The border in the sea is roughly about 15 to 20 kilometers, meaning to say, let's say India's border, when we say land, since India is a peninsula, and from three sides it is covered with it is adjacent to the sea. So India's border is not just the land. After the land, another 20 kilometers into the sea belongs to India. So, and after that 20 kilometers, there's an imaginary line. That is the border of India. Any ship which crosses that border and enters inside that border, automatically the naval guard is going to start making announcement that you are entering India's territory and you are entering without any permission. Please return or be prepared for prosecution and other announcements. So that is the frontier. So what we are saying here is delivered at frontier means that the goods are in the ship. Ship will not enter the territory of the country. It could be a war-torn country like an Afghanistan or a Syria or any other country. So in those cases where civil unrest is happening and the ship owner or maybe the exporter or the importer says that please do not enter the boundary or the border, you simply reach the border. I will send my feeder vessels and the feeder vessels will collect the goods from the mothership and collect the shipment. So in that particular case, we have this input term called DAF, delivered at frontier. Now we go next step, which is DES, which is delivered ex ship. Now delivered ex ship means now the ship has entered the customs border. It has entered, it has reached the seaport, but the goods have not been unloaded from the ship. So this means the goods are there on the ship, ship has reached the seaport and it is yet to be unloaded. That is delivered ex ship. So if the buyer asks for a DES or if the seller says $5 DES, that $5 DES means all the things that we have discussed about, all those costs are included in this DES, and it means that the goods will be made available to the buyer. It is on the ship, it is at the port, it has not been unloaded. That is DES. Next step is DEQ. Now, DEQ is delivered ex quay. Quay is like a wharf or a dock, shipping dock, a dockyard. So in this case, DEQ, delivered ex quay, what it means is that the goods have been unloaded from the ship and it has been put on the ground at the dockyard. That is delivered ex quay. It has not been taken to the customs. It is just at the dockyard, that is delivered ex-quay. Next level is DDU, which is delivered duty unpaid. Now this means that the goods have been shifted from the dockyard and it has been brought to the customs, but it has not been custom cleared. So that is delivered duty unpaid. It is now at the customs, not cleared. Next step is DDP, which is delivered duty paid. Now this means the goods have been cleared by the customs, which means that the custom duty has been paid. The custom has found the shipment to be okay, no objections, and the goods have been cleared by the customs and the goods have entered the domestic territory of the buyer's country. And now the buyer can take the goods and send it to the warehouse, send it to the retail house, to whichever place. Now it has been cleared. So that is DDP, delivered duty paid. So in case of delivered duty paid, the highest responsibility, all the responsibilities are that of the seller. The buyer's responsibility is only to make the payment. And in case of ex works, the lowest responsibility is that of the seller. They only have to produce and provide the goods outside their premises, and rest of the responsibility is that of the buyer. So this is the gist of the Incoterms, and we are going to actually look at the definitions and in detail each of the Incoterms. So the first Incoterm that we discussed was ex works. It represents minimum obligation for the seller. The seller or the exporter makes the goods available at her premises, which is premises also called works or the factory or the warehouse, and makes it available to the buyer. The seller is not responsible for loading the goods on the vehicle or custom clearance or anything else, and the buyer bears all costs and risks involved in taking the goods from the seller's premises to their own desired destination. That is ex works. Free carrier, like we discussed, the seller hands over the goods, it is cleared for the export, and it is into the charge of the carrier named by the buyer at the named place or point. If the buyer says FCA, if the buyer says I want the goods custom cleared on, let's say, this vessel of Samsung at the Mumbai port. So that is free carrier, Mumbai port, Samsung vessel. So the responsibility of the seller is to produce the goods, hand it over, get it cleared, custom cleared, and stuff it on the ship or whatever carrier. And this term may be used for any mode of transport. It can be a lorry or a truck or a boat or a ship or a aeroplane or whatever, including multimodal transport. So it can be by cycle also, it can be by ferry or by various modes of transportation. Next, we talk about free alongside ship. Like we discussed, the seller places the goods alongside the vessel on the quay at the named port of shipment. Now, free alongside ship means the goods have been delivered at the dockyard, but it has not been loaded onto the ship. And the buyer bears all costs and risk of loss of or damage to the goods from that moment. So once it has been delivered beside the ship, after that, the risk and the responsibility of the buyer starts. Free on board, most used in India 95% of the times. The seller gets the goods custom cleared, ensures that the goods have been passed over the ship's rail at the named port of the shipment. So example is like Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust. So the seller sends the goods, get it custom cleared, and stuffs it on the ship, gets it stuffed on the ship. Till then, till that point is the responsibility of the seller or the exporter. After that, the buyer's responsibility starts. It's called free on board. And then next we talked about cost and freight. And whenever we say, let's say $5 CFR, then along with the CFR, we also have to write the named port of destination. So so for example, we write $5 CFR Rotterdam. Then the buyer understands, for $5 my goods are going to reach Rotterdam, and from there I'll have to take care of the further movement of the goods and all the expenses. So this means that the seller must pay the cost and freight necessary to bring the goods to the named port of destination. CIF, like we discussed, cost, insurance, freight, And again, in this case also, when we say $5 CIF, you also have to mention the name of the port of destination where the goods will be sent. So you'll say $5 CIF Rotterdam. Now this means that this $5 includes the cost of the goods, the insurance also, and the freight also. Freight from Mumbai till Rotterdam. And this means that the seller has the same obligation as under CFR, cost and freight. So CIF and CFR, in both the cases, seller has the same obligation, just that in CIF, the seller also has to buy the marine insurance for the buyer. Of course, anything happens to the shipment, the insurance claim will have to be done by the buyer, not by the exporter. So that's CIF. And there are two more input terms, CPT and CIP. Now this is carriage paid to, and CIP is carriage and insurance paid to. Now this is used for all kinds of transportation. In CPT, carriage paid to means the seller has produced the goods, has also paid the freight for the carriage of the goods to the named destination. So which means the goods are being sent from point A to point B, and the seller has already paid the transportation charges, which means that the buyer at the point B will only accept the goods. The buyer does not have to pay to the transporter. So that is all prepaid. In case the seller does not pay the transportation charge and sends it by transport, that means the buyer will have to pay the transportation charge, and only then the buyer will get the goods released from the transport agency. So that is called collect. Similarly, carriage and insurance paid to, the only difference is that in this case, transportation plus the insurance will be bought by the seller. And of course, again, insurance has been bought by the seller on behalf of the buyer, and in case anything goes wrong, the buyer will claim the insurance, will claim the risk of. So it's going to be the buyer's risk. If there is any loss or damage or things like that during the carriage, then it is not the seller who is going to look into it. Once the seller has put the goods onto the carrier, after that, it is the buyer's responsibility. Anything goes wrong, the buyer is going to claim the insurance, claim the damages. And then we come to delivered at frontier. Like we said, the ship will not enter the border. It will stay at the border, and the feeder vessels can come and take the goods from the mother vessel and then take it inside the country. The main ship will not enter the border of the frontier, the country, the buyer's country. So that is DEF. And DES, delivered ex ship, the seller makes the goods available on board. Ship has cleared the border but has not been custom cleared for import at the named port of destination. The seller has to bear all the cost and risk involved in bringing the goods to the named port of destination. So if a seller gives a price DES, it means the seller will take the responsibility, risk and everything till the ship has reached the port, but the goods have not been unloaded. That is delivered ex ship. Delivered ex quay is when the goods have been unloaded from the ship and has been put on the dockyard. So that is delivered ex quay. So if the seller says, I'll give you $5 DEQ, it means I'll take care of all the responsibilities till such time the goods have been unloaded onto the dockyard of your country. Till that time. And DEQ is only used for sea or inland waterway transport. It is not used for airway because quay means an artificial port, a man-made port where the ships can come and then unloading can be done. And then we have delivered duty unpaid, where the goods have been taken from the dockyard and has been taken to the customs, but they have not been cleared. So delivered duty unpaid is where the seller makes the goods available at the named place in the country of the importation. Seller is going to bear all the cost and risk till such time the custom formalities have been taken, but only custom clearance remains. Rest all of the responsibilities will be taken care of by the seller. And after that, the buyer will get the goods custom cleared. But in case of DDP, delivered duty paid, in this case, the seller will take care of everything. You will also get it custom cleared in the buyer's country and deliver it to the buyer. So, in a nutshell, we can see that X works represent least burden on the seller, whereas DDP represents maximum obligation on the seller. So with that, we come to the end of Incoterms, and now we will be discussing the impact of Incoterms on garment cost or price. Now, it is fairly understood that the more the distance that is covered by the goods, and it is still the responsibility of the seller, then the seller will have to bear more expenses. You move from Delhi to Mumbai, move the goods from Delhi to Mumbai by railways. You have to pay for the railway charges. Then it gets unloaded from the railway. You have to pay for that. Then it is loaded onto the truck. You pay for that. Once it is, the truck goes to the customs, the transportation charge is there. Again, it will be unloaded at the customs. You have to pay the unloading charges. Then the customs officer is going to check the inspect the goods. You'll have to pay the inspection charges. Then the goods are stuffed onto the ship. Then the stuffing charges occur. So if the buyer says, I'll give it to you at my factory, the charges are going to be less. But if the seller says, I'll deliver it to your country also, I'll get it custom cleared also, in that case the charges are going to be more. So therefore the cost of or the price of the garment will continuously increase with each passing with every as we move from one stage to another. The cost of the garment will continuously increase because there are expenses involved in every stage. That is what we are going to discuss in this section. And now we are on slide number 26, and we're going to talk about how do Incoterms impact total landed cost calculations. Now, when the X works Incoterm is selected, the importer bears the logistic cost from the supplier's factory to its own delivery point. All these costs are then added to the unit price and become the total landed cost. So at the end of the day, the buyer has to pay for all the expenses. So the total landed cost means the cost of the goods plus cost of all the transportation, all the custom charges, all the insurance, freight, everything. Altogether comes to the total landed cost. Now, if the delivered duty paid Incoterm is selected, in that case, the supplier will have to take care of all the logistic costs from their factory to the buyer's delivery location. So in this case, DDP, maximum liability, maximum obligation lies with the seller. Now, what goes into these costs as we move from one phase to another? First is the unit cost of product. It is the production cost per unit, which is the variable cost and fixed cost of the factory. So that is the price, the amount of money that is required to make the product. Then the seller or the exporter will add the profit and then will give it to you outside the factory. That will be the price. Now, if the seller says that I will deliver it to you at Mumbai, JNPT. So in that case, the seller is also going to add the cost of transportation to the goods, and then we'll come up with a new price. And if the goods have to be unloaded from the railway cars or trucks to the seaport, and the seller commits to also get it unloaded, then the seller is also going to charge the unloading charge. And they will add this unloading charge to the total price. And if the custom clearance is also taken care of by the seller, then the seller will add the handling, wharfage, harbor charges, all of that to the price, because the seller will have to pay all these charges to the wharfage company or the dockyard company. And if the seller also pays the ocean freight, then they will add the ocean freight to the price, which will have to be paid by the buyer. And of course, when you are sending the shipment by ship or by air or by any mode of transportation, there is a freight forwarder. Freight forwarder is like an agent who will help you in the documentation and who will help you in the booking of the shipping space. So let's say you are in Delhi, you are an exporter. You will concentrate on manufacturing of the goods, not on going to Mumbai and getting your goods custom cleared. So you nominate a freight forwarder or an agent. Now this agent is going to work for you, is going to get the documents cleared, and then will get the actual shipment cleared, and then will take all the receipts and will send it to you in Delhi. So the freight forwarder will have to be paid the fee for working, for doing all those things. So that is the freight forwarder's fee. That will also be added to the price if the seller is taking care of this. If the buyer takes care of this, then this charge will not be added to the price offered by the seller. And so if you want a cost and freight price, then you add to be a total from 1 to 7. So 1 to 7 will give you the cost and freight price. And further, if the seller also buys the insurance for the buyer, then the seller will add the insurance charge to the price of the goods. So the per unit cost of each of the goods are going to increase because the marine insurance also has been added to it. So cost insurance freight is the cost, which is FOB, free on board, let's say Mumbai, plus the insurance plus freight from Mumbai to Rotterdam. Insurance from Mumbai to Rotterdam, whatever insurance charges. So that will be the CIF. And if the goods are unloaded at the buyer's country, then unloading charge will be added. And then custom formality charges. The custom formality charges are those charges which have to be paid before the custom clearance. When the goods have been downloaded from the ship to the dockyard, and from the dockyard it has been taken to the customs. So whatever expenses occur, that is custom formality charge. Then when the actual custom clearance is happening, then the custom duty will have to be paid. So all of these things will be added to the price if the seller is taking care of all these responsibilities. And then ultimately, if the seller also promises to deliver the shipment to your warehouse in your country, then the transportation charge from the port to the buyer's warehouse will be added to the price. And then the seller is going to quote that price, final price, to the buyer. So an exporter may give you a price of $5 ex Mumbai port, but for let's say one shirt. But if the exporter has to deliver it to your warehouse in Rotterdam, then the exporter may charge somewhere around $7 to $8 per shirt. So $5 at Mumbai port, $8 to your warehouse, maybe $8 to $9. So another $3.5 to $4 per unit will be added because of the insurance and the freight and the loading, unloading, and the custom duty and other things. And in slide number 32, you can see that the same thing has been in a table. We can see impact of Incoterms on garment cost of price as we move from one level to another. So we're starting with X factory. We add the cartage from, let's say, Delhi to Mumbai. That cartage that gives us the FOB. You add the ocean transport, you get the cost and freight. You add the insurance, you get the cost insurance freight, and then you add the import duties plus inland transport. You get the duty delivered, duty paid. And then of course there is the importer's margin, wholesaler margin, retailer margin plus VAT, and that gives us the consumer price, the price which will be paid by the customer in Rotterdam or in France for 1 unit of the shot. That is the consumer price. So when the consumer pays a particular price, it includes the cost of producing in Delhi plus then all those other things added together. That finally results in the consumer price. So with that, we come to the end of this session. We had talked about the Incoterms, the international commercial terms, and we also discussed how the cost changes as we move from one stage to another in the supply chain, from the seller to the buyer's country. Thank you.